These days, women are outperforming men in pretty much every metric. And this isn't a totally new thing. This didn't just start within the past 5 years. It's been going on for probably about 20 years now, maybe longer. And the wheels have been in motion in that direction for even longer than that. But yeah, I mean, the modern woman just completely mogs the modern man. And it's brutal. It's brutal out here for men. And I got to thinking about this because I was on a bike ride, something I've been doing lately, and I started to think about how back in the day, years ago, when I had a good job, I lived in the big city. Something I used to like to do back then is I would go on bike rides, and I would oftentimes I would ride my bike over to the beach, and then I would just kind of hang out around there for a few minutes and just watch people, do some people watching, which I don't know why I did that because, even back then, people watching in public it's always just going to make me depressed. It's always just bound to make me depressed when I see all the other people having a good time, enjoying relationships with their significant others, families out with their kids, happy families, groups of friends smiling and laughing together. But anyways, that's not important right now. So yeah, I was at the beach this one time, just people watching like I usually did. And I noticed this one girl that's there, she's on the beach wearing a bikini, and this girl is, no lie, like the hottest girl I have ever seen in my life. And if you saw her that day, you would agree. And I don't know if she was some type of Instagram or TikTok influencer or something, because she actually got approached by like a group of teenage boys approached her. And I thought they were gonna like hit on her or something, but it wasn't even that. It seemed like they asked to. I was far enough away I couldn't really hear what they're saying, but yeah. So they asked to take a picture with her, and then they just all took like a group photo with her and walked off. The interaction was real quick, which I thought was really weird. You don't usually just ask to take a photo with a girl because she's just that hot. That's a really weird thing to do. So I assumed they actually knew who she was. She was probably some kind of influencer. But anyways, then, after that, like right after that, another group of a few teenage boys did the same thing. It was like a separate group also approached after they saw the first group do that. They also approached and asked to take pictures with this girl. And, she obliged, and they all took photos together. And then the group of boys walked off. And yeah, so I was just watching, and I thought it was weird because, this just super, super Giga Stacy walking around in a bikini alone on the beach. And, she's got people coming to ask to take photos with her. And yeah, I did see at some point, a guy did come up to her and actually looked like he was hitting on her. And I guess she rejected him because, I didn't see any phones coming out to exchange numbers or anything. But, he walked off. He didn't seem like completely dejected. He was, Chad type of guy, a guy that actually could have reasonably thought in his mind that he might have a shot. But in this case, I guess he didn't. And yeah, and as I'm watching this whole scene unfold, I thought it was kind of strange, this Stacy, she's here all by herself, because usually highly attractive women, they don't go places alone because they never have to. They have just dozens of people waiting on their beck and call, they just snap their fingers and they've got an entourage ready to assist them in any way they may need, socially or otherwise. So I thought it was weird that she was alone, but then eventually I realized, oh, she's not here alone. And then I noticed there's this other girl with her. The other girl wasn't wearing a bikini. She was just, wearing kind of regular beach clothes, like a tank top and shorts. And she was also pretty hot. But the thing was, the bikini Stacy just mogged the other girl into oblivion to the point that the other girl being, kind of hot, I didn't even notice her. I didn't even notice her at all. And then I noticed something, I started to pick up on, little subtle details in the body language and between the interactions between these two girls. And I realized, oh, they're not just friends. I started to realize, okay, these two girls are together like that. And it just made me think, and when I was thinking back to that memory today, and I started to think, in the modern day, women mog men so much. Women are outperforming men in every metric, outperforming men to such a large degree that women don't even, when women seek a partner in life, they're not even seeking men anymore. More and more. This is more and more so the case because women are hypergamous. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Hypergamous, hypergamous, whatever. If you're in the black pill community, you know this word. It basically means that when women seek a partner, they seek the most beneficial partner they can, right? So traditionally, they seek the man that has the highest status, the richest man, the best looking man, the highest social status man. And that's, traditionally speaking. And by the way, I think men are also hypergamous, but it's in a different way, right? Because men don't care about certain things like how much money a woman makes. But anyways, that's beside the point. So, we all know women are hypergamous and they seek the highest status mate that they can find. Well, what happens when all the highest status people around aren't men anymore? They're women. Well, what happens is what we see in younger generations, rapidly rising rates in LGBT identifying youth. And why is that? Because women, girls, and women, especially at the younger ages, in the younger generations, it's women that are the highest status. So when younger girls and women are seeking a partner in the modern age, they're not looking at men at all. They're looking toward women more and more because that is who has the highest place in society. It's women. And this is talking about, the younger generations. And here's some data I found here about how, young women are out earning young men on average in several cities across the US. And we all know the data about how more women receive college degrees than men do. And that's been going on for a long time, but it's always increasing. There's more women in education than men, in higher education. Then, it expands out to other areas as well, Women serve less time in prison controlling for the same crime. Women receive less severe prison sentences for crimes. And all of these data points that explain how women are outperforming men in modern society, they all compound upon themselves, Women are more highly educated than men, right? Young women are more highly educated than young men. Yet, women benefit from affirmative action while men do not. It's easier for a woman to get a high-earning job compared to a man. Like if all else is equal, if a man and woman had the exact same qualifications for a job, they have the exact same resume, the woman's getting hired 90% of the time. 90% of the time, they will hire the woman, especially at larger corporations, which tend to be the better paying jobs. And, especially for STEM jobs, because in STEM fields, engineering, mathematics, science, women are still considered to be quote unquote underrepresented. Although I think if you look at the data, because I have 2 STEM degrees, and I can say that in my classes, there definitely was more men than women, but there are a good number of girls, in engineering and in computer science and that type of thing. There's plenty of girls doing it. It's not like there's not many of them at all. So I don't necessarily buy into that women are underrepresented in STEM fields. But yeah, when it comes to finding a job, if you're competing against a woman, even a woman that's not as good, not as qualified as you for the job, if you're competing against a woman for getting a job, forget about it. Forget about it. Unless you're just, a coding ninja, a rock star programmer, or a rock star aeronautical engineer, or whatever you may be applying for. If you're up against a woman, your chances are not great. They are not great. And it's crazy because, and here's the thing about it, right? Men had been on the top in a lot of the, education, higher earning jobs, status in general, social status. Men were at the top for a while. for a lot of years. I'm not gonna try to sit here and argue. Like, I know a lot of people would, a lot of red pill guys might argue, like, oh, women have actually had the better deal in life even back in the 1800s. Like, I'm not gonna make that argument. I think, maybe men had things a little better in a lot of ways. Back then they had to go off to war sometimes. So, that's kind of the trade-off. But still, men had a higher place in society than women in general back then, 100 years ago. But nowadays, women are, especially young women, the women of the younger generation, are outperforming men in all of the identifying metrics, in all of the metrics, education, earning potential, all of these things that, even psychological health, the state of the psychological health, the mental health of young men in society right now, it's not good. It's not good. And I don't know if I even count as a young man anymore. My mental health is probably not the best. And it wasn't, when I was a young man, 10 years ago, when I was in my 20s, it was also not good. Yeah, the crazy thing about this, with women outperforming men in all these metrics, it's crazy because women are now at a level that men used to be at status-wise. The roles have kind of reversed, a man and woman's place in society. But even back in the day when men had a higher status in society, the biggest issue that men faced back then, as it is now today, is how difficult it is to try to find love, how difficult it is to attract a mate. Even back in the day when men were in the higher status place in society compared to women, men found a large amount of difficulty in trying to find love, trying to find a wife, to start a family. The thing that, all of society says you got to do that. And you also have a biological drive to do that. The difficulty with trying to find love, trying to find a mate, that is a non-issue for women. It was a non-issue for women 150 years ago. It's a non-issue for women now, even though the roles, status-wise between men and women in society, the roles have kind of flipped. Now women are the higher status, higher earning, more educated gender in our society, and yet still they don't have the issue of trying to find love. They don't find difficulty with that. It's still easy for them. So now with women outperforming men in all these key metrics, women aren't just, at the same place in society status-wise that men were 100 years ago. They're beyond that. The modern woman not only mogs the modern man, the modern woman mogs the F out of not only the modern man, but the man of the past. The modern young woman today mogs the modern alpha male of the past. The alpha male of 100 years ago cannot even compete status-wise with a 23-year-old girl boss in 2024. Young women today are just... I know YouTube isn't going to like me saying this, but I'm just going to say it. Young women today, they live life on easy mode. They live life on easy mode. Compared to women of the past, compared to young men today, compared to alpha male gigachads of today, young women today live life on easy mode even compared to alpha male giga chad renaissance men of the 17 freaking hundreds. There has never been in history a better type of person to be than a 20-something-year-old woman in the 2020s. Give me a time machine and some kind of gender-bending contraption where I can scientifically change my sex and go back to any time or any time in the future I choose. I'm going to forget the time machine and I'm changing my sex to female. You know what? Maybe I'll cut that part out. That sounded weird. But yeah, it really is. Women these days are living life on easy mode as compared to men or women of any time throughout all of history. It's incredible the way they're living, just brutally mogging everybody. I bet if a man and a woman went on safari together, got lost, and were stuck, lost, trying to survive out in the African savannah, out in the grasslands with the hyenas, the lions, the leopards, the gazelles, the giraffes, the gorillas, you name it. A man and woman, modern man and woman, out there, stuck, brutal, savannah, Africa, trying to survive. I bet a group of chimpanzees or something is gonna walk up on them, brutally rip the man to shreds, tear him limb from limb, then pick the woman up, carry her on their shoulders to safety, feed her some bananas and mangoes and stuff, and just carry her to the nearest little village where the people there, they'll probably treat her, they'll probably see her, think she's some kind of, because these tribal villages out there in the wilderness, they're kind of they don't know everything about modern society, so they might not even have our same frame of reference. But just from seeing the modern woman, just from seeing the outlandish, just the intense, insane confidence that a person radiates when they have that high of status in society, that high of unearned status, by the way, it's kind of unearned. When these uncontacted tribal village of people sees this modern woman, they're going to worship her. They're going to think she is an angel or something, some kind of ethereal goddess sent to the tribe to save them. And she'd be showered with love, affection, gifts. They'd give her all the gold in the world that they have, or whatever, kind of fruits or special fish heads or whatever they consider a delicacy. They would shower her with all these gifts. I bet she wouldn't even appreciate it. Because if I was in that situation and a tribal village is treating me like I'm a god, even if it's like, okay, this isn't from my culture, this isn't like, okay, I don't want to eat a frog's intestines or whatever you consider a delicacy. But, I would appreciate it. I would appreciate being treated like a god. I could live that life. Fine. My place in this society isn't going very well. It's not good. I'm not happy with it. I don't like it. Treat me like a god in a tribal village in the African savannah. I'll take it. I'll eat frog intestines. I'll eat whatever delicacy you have. And I'll be happy about it. I'll be quite pleased about it. Because that would be, higher status is what I crave. But a young modern woman today, she's at the highest status there's ever been of any creature ever of all time. The modern 20-something-year-old woman today is living life more luxurious than Cleopatra lived her life. It's hard to even fathom. It truly is. It's hard to even fathom what it's like to be a young woman today. I know I can't. I can't understand it. I really can't. I truly can't. And another thing too is, we talk about low inhibition, high inhibition. It's absolutely key for a man. You can be Giga Chad all you want, You can be in the top 70% of looks for a man, but if you're high inhibition, if you're really high inhibition, it's still over for you. It's still over for a man that's high inhibition. Even if he's Chad Light, even if he's pretty good looking. But a woman, inhibition doesn't even matter for a woman because they don't have to be aggressive. They don't have to make things happen. And that's the other thing about women's status has gone up, men's status has gone down. So the roles as far as how everyone, every corporation and everything in society perceives men and women at their certain status levels, men at the bottom, women at the top, that has kind of changed, right? That has kind of flipped in a sense. But what hasn't flipped is societal's expectations as far as, the gender roles we play, Men have to take charge. Men have to be confident. Men have to be the go-getters, the ones to get things done. Men have to be the assertive ones. Yet they don't get, that used to be the reason men had a higher status. It was earned. Men earned their place in society when men were at the top status wise. Women, these modern women, they're at the top status wise, but did they earn it? Did they earn it through hard work? Did they earn it through their assertiveness? Did they earn it through their confidence, through their making things happen? Did they earn it through their go out and do it to-ness? I don't think they did necessarily. And again, I want to be clear because a lot of people will hear what I'm saying and they'll think that I hate women, or they'll think that I'm saying there's a reason to look down upon women or anything like that. And I want to be clear that that's not the case. That's not how I see it. And that's not how you should look at women either. Because, it's kind of society as a whole that determines a group's status and determines the way that things are. So it's kind of, on an individual level, none of us can blame ourselves for how things are. And also on an individual level, you can't blame any individual. You might see Giga Stacy out there with, you might see low tier Becky out there with just bukus of confidence, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars, earning six figures in her job that she's not even good at. You might see that and you might start to think negatively about, but the thing is, you can't blame an individual for taking advantage of the way things are, You really can't, because if you were in that situation, you would do the same thing. If I was in that situation, I would take advantage of it. But I'm not in that situation and you're not in that situation. So it's easy for us to look at it and blame each individual woman for taking advantage of their situation. And I'm just saying I don't think that's a good way to look at it. I don't think it's productive. I don't think there is a productive way to look at it to begin with. Analyzing this isn't even productive, but I'm just saying, I actually don't bear any ill will, any hatred towards modern women at all. I just think it's, I'm just venting about the situation, It's tough out here it's tough out here for men my age. Men of the generation below me, the younger generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, I think the next one is. It's even worse for y'all. Man, I don't know what there is to do about it, but yeah. I just got to thinking about this today, about how the modern woman is just brutally mogging the modern man. And yeah, they kind of live life on easy mode. So there it is.